Hello everybody and welcome back to another week of live Q&A. My name is Athena Moberg and I just want to personally welcome you here if this is your first time. We come here every single week and I do my very best to answer your questions on a topic surrounding a certain area of trauma recovery. So this particular channel, Trauma Recovery University, is a YouTube channel and a Roku TV channel for adult survivors of any type of childhood trauma, complex trauma. Complex trauma literally means trauma that has gone on for a long period of time and you are now living with the after effects of that. And so if you are an adult survivor of any type of childhood trauma, childhood abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial, ritual, religious, any type of abuse during childhood, and you're now an adult, then you're in the right place. And I just want to welcome you if this is your first time. I'm so excited that you've chosen to be here for this hour or 90 minutes of community time where we all come together and we support one another, and I do my best to answer your questions. So tonight's topic is accountability. What is accountability? And it's kind of a buzzword that we hear a lot about, and we hear a lot about accountability when it comes to physical fitness and having a workout partner or having a personal trainer, or accountability in the workplace. What does that look like? What does personal accountability look like in interpersonal relationships? But we're going to talk tonight about accountability in the context of us as adults healing from complex trauma. What does that accountability look like? What are the fruits of accountability? What are the after effects, the benefits of accountability? And what does accountability look like? And what are the ins and outs of accountability? Are there any, we've mentioned the pros, are there any cons to accountability? Are there ways that accountability cannot be in our best interest? Or is accountability something that is a best practice for all high achievers and people who are operating at a high level of functionality in whatever area of their life, relationally, financially, socially, educationally, professionally? And I just want to break this up and put it out to you guys, the survivors, and get your thoughts and answer your questions on the topic of accountability and how it can benefit you in your recovery journey. And I want to first, as we just begin this conversation, I want to be really, really, really clear about what accountability isn't, okay? And who this chat is not for. So if you are here and you are an adult survivor of complex trauma and you're here to give support to others and receive support for yourself, whether you're here live during the live conversation that's going on YouTube or over on Twitter using the hashtag #NoMoreShame, or if you're on a replay, who is this for? So that is for you. If you're an adult survivor of any type of complex trauma, any type of childhood trauma, and you're on a live chat, you're here live on Monday, the 7th of August, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, until 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, or if you're on a replay anytime, years from now, decades from now, this is for you. But who this chat is not for is, this chat is not for people who are bullies. If you're a cyberbully, if you're a troll, if you have nothing better to do with your time than to come and harass a girl who just wants to show up here and support trauma survivors as a volunteer for free on the internet, publicly, you're not really welcome here. You're not welcome to harass my community members. You're not welcome to trigger other people into a PTSD flashback and act like you don't know what you're doing. If you're here to give support and receive support, and if you're agreeing to step away from the chat, if you're triggered and receive professional support, crisis support, then you're welcome here. But if that doesn't describe you, you're not welcome here. So welcome. And what accountability is and what it isn't. I want to really be clear about what accountability is not. So accountability in any context, whether that is accountability in the workplace, accountability in a personal training relationship for physical fitness, accountability in interpersonal relationships, accountability within the context of friendships, of parent-child relationships, marital relationships, accountability in your finances, accountability in any area of your life. I want to tell you what accountability isn't. Accountability is not shame. It's not shaming. So if you're here to shame people under the guise of holding them accountable, you're not welcome here because that's not what accountability is. Accountability is simply, first of all, it's not initiated by another person. Let's talk about what accountability is, and then I'm going to take your questions, okay? I'm going to lay it all out for you. So we all know what accountability isn't. It's not shaming. It's not shaming someone under the guise of holding them accountable for their actions so that they feel like crap about the life they're living and what they're doing, whether that's financially, educationally, professionally, relationally, in their recovery journey, health-wise. Shaming someone is not holding them accountable. Is it possible for someone to feel ashamed as you are holding them accountable? Yes, it is. You're not responsible for their feelings, but you are responsible for the way that you communicate accountability to the other person. And let me give you one other really big tip in the very beginning of this conversation about what accountability is and how it goes down is the person wanting to be held accountable is the person asking for your advice. So I'm Athena, and I want to be held accountable in regards to my recovery journey, or let's say my caloric intake. I really have a goal. It starts with a goal. I have a goal of eating fewer calorically dense foods. I want to eat more fruits and vegetables that are not as calorically dense as most other foods. So I, Athena, the person with the goal, asks someone else, a friend, a coach, a coworker, a colleague, a spouse, someone in the community. I ask them to hold me accountable. And I say, I'd really like some accountability in the area of my health. And my goal is to eat fewer calorically dense foods. I don't want to eat as many foods that are dense in calories. I want to eat a lower amount of calories because my goal is that I would like to lose 5 pounds by the time my birthday comes around. So would you help hold me accountable to that? Because that's my goal. And then the proper response from the person I'm asking is, how would you like me to hold you accountable? How often would you like me to hold you accountable? And then I would say, thank you for asking. How about during our weekly call, you just ask me whenever you remember, hopefully it's every week, make a note to ask me once a week how it's going on my calorie intake. And I'm like, awesome, cool. And they say, okay, good, that's what I'll do. And then a week rolls around and we have a call, and then they say, hey, by the way, you asked for accountability in this area. I wanted to ask how it's going with your calories. And I'd be like, thank you so much for holding me accountable. This is my goal. And you know what? For a few days in the beginning of the week, I didn't do so good because I was craving some cashews, and cashews are so good and they're my kryptonite, but they're calorically dense. And so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I had a handful of cashews in the evening time when I was watching a show on TV with my husband or whatever. But on Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday, I did super good, and I didn't have any cashews, and most of the foods I was eating were not very calorically dense. They were actually just like mostly fruits and vegetables, and I didn't really have very much meat, but thanks for holding me accountable. Boom, that's what that looks like. So I hope that little role play scenario is helping you. I'll go to Mr. Google, who's one of our favorites, and I'll read you what Google says about accountability, and then I'll put it out to you guys, the adult survivors of complex trauma. Perhaps you're living with CPTSD symptoms, and you want to know how accountability would work in the context of a recovery situation, which I'll give you another example of after we go to Mr. Google, okay? And then I'll answer your guys' questions. But first, I'm going to take a drink of water because I need a drink of water. So hold me accountable to that. Okay. Thank you so much, you guys. So this is what Google says about accountability. And let me see if I can find this here. I had it, but then it was like, it sort of went behind. It went behind the little screen where I'm talking to you guys. Okay, here we go. So this is an example that Google gives of examples of accountability in the context of a workplace environment. Employees being present for their entire required shift. So a way that they would be held accountable to being present for their entire required work shift would be a time clock. A time clock holds them accountable. Or a manager would be able to see when they came in and when they left. So being held accountable. Example number 2. Employees completing any tasks that they have been assigned. Tasks that have been designated to that particular employee. So a manager or a supervisor would watch and supervise or communicate with you regarding any tasks that have been delegated to you during your required work shift. So that's holding you accountable. Employees being responsible for specific duties that go along with their job title. So let's say you are a cashier, but one of your duties when you show up at work is stocking the shelves. Now, your job title is cashier, but your job duties are to stock the shelves and be a cashier. So a supervisor or someone that might not be present, but will come in at a later time perhaps, is going to hold you accountable to not only doing your cashier duties, because that's your job title, but also stocking the shelves. So you're being held accountable. You're having someone be sure and make sure that you are held responsible for your actions as it pertains to your job duties of being a cashier and stocking the shelves. So let's see what Google says about personal accountability. So personal accountability is the belief that you are fully responsible for your own actions and consequences. It is a choice, a mindset, and an expression of integrity. Personal accountability. And I'm going to end on that note because that is a perfect description, which, by the way, the source for this particular quote is from Forbes, from Forbes.com, talking about personal accountability. And the source for the previous example I gave you was from a website called timewellscheduled.com. So those are a couple of examples of accountability. And so I want to just sort of flip it on its side a little bit, and I want to talk to you guys about what accountability looks like in my life as it pertains to my recovery journey. So everybody has a different stage that they're in their recovery journey. We all have a root trauma, and we all have subsequent traumas that trigger us back to our root trauma. And then we have, as per the Moberg Parish Trauma Recovery Model, we move through the different stages of recovery. I know that there are some of you here that have been with us for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you are very familiar with the Moberg Parish Trauma Recovery Model. And if you happen to have a JPEG image or a PNG or even a PDF and you felt like sharing that in the chat box section of the YouTube chat, or even tweeting that out and like linking back to that tweet so that people could get a visual of what the Moberg Parish Trauma Recovery Model is, that would be amazing. I would be super duper grateful. So basically for me, I'm just going to use myself as an example because I feel like that's the safest thing to do. That way nobody feels like I'm calling them out, okay? So in my own recovery journey, I've gone through ebbs and flows. I've been sort of doing this healing thing for over 17 years now, and actually longer. I mean, if we're all being real, my abuse started at birth. I have a written letter from one of my abusers from when I was 5 days old. And the letter indicates plans to exploit me, trade me, sell me, indicates that even at 5 days old, basically I'm perfect. I'm perfect for what it is that I've been born to do. And that other people in my family are clueless and would probably never even know. So I have written documentation from November 5th, 1973. So I know my abuse began even prior to birth, like in utero, because there were drugs and alcohol that were going on while I was in utero. I know there was. So knowing that I have incurred trauma from in utero until, well, now, here I am, and I'm 43 years old. I've been sort of aware that there is a such thing as abuse and trauma for about the past 17 or more years. Yes, prior to that, I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know there was a such thing as abuse or trauma, or that I could make a difference, right? That I had the power of choice. I sort of figured that out about 17 or more years ago, a little bit longer than 17 years ago. So in my recovery journey, this is what accountability looks like. In the beginning days, I didn't take responsibility for my own well-being. I didn't even know that I had the power of choice in the matter of my own mental and emotional and physical well-being. I thought that I belonged to other people, which I mean, I kind of did in my own defense. Like, not to make excuses, because I'm all about personal accountability, being held responsible for my own actions, right? And it's a matter of integrity, right? So to remain in integrity within myself, yes, I know that I'm responsible, but like, I didn't really know. So even if we went back to when I was 17 or 18 years old, when someone is technically legally responsible for their own actions, I was still under the power of other people that did not have my best interest in mind. And I was very delusional and naive when it came to life, what life was about. So accountability was pretty non-existent. So let's just fast forward a little bit, about, I don't know, around 10 years, okay? When my son was probably 7 years old. And I was pregnant when I was 18, and then I had him right away. I turned 19 and had him 3 days later. So fast forward, my son's about 7 years old. So here I am, and I'm no longer 18 years old. Let's just say let's see, if my son is 7, that means that I'm 26, okay? So let's say I'm about 26 years old, and I realize, wait a second here. That's not okay, and I have no idea what to do about it. So I reach out to a counselor, although I have no money because I was so young and didn't really know how to balance a checkbook, how to get credit, how to use a credit card, I was very, 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 and when I say very socially inept, I really want to drive home the fact that I was very socially inept. I was always a really good student, but only to the degree where everything was very literal. And like, I was told to do something and I did it very well. So I didn't have wisdom or discernment or reasoning skills or critical thinking skills. Critical path method was something I didn't even know about. So accountability in those early days was me reaching out to a counselor that was funded by the government. And for $5, I could sit with her and share with her some things that I had been journaling about, because she made me journal. And she kept making me ask myself, why, until I got to the end of something, which was good. Her holding me accountable in my journaling was what kickstarted my healing journey, which is why last week's topic of journaling, Harriet, if you could pop up a YouTube card about journaling, the last week's journaling video, that would be amazing. I know that we were on a field trip and my internet connection was just nothing, and sorry about that. But there are some good nuggets in there about journaling, and just, you know, look up some journaling stuff and follow Katie Morton and look at Katie Morton's journaling topics by searching any social media channel using hashtag Katie Journal Topic, I think is what the hashtag is. So at any rate, my counselor holding me, I use counselor in air quotes because I'm not sure of her exact title. She may have been a social worker. I'm not 100% sure of her job title, I guess, is what, I don't really know what her job title was. But she was amazing, and she held me accountable in my journaling. And she would ask me every single week what I journaled about and what were some things that I learned or that were helpful for me and that helped me feel better or navigate my life better. And so that was the first time I ever really had any accountability in my life. I didn't have anybody holding me accountable for my grades when I was in school. I didn't really have anybody holding me accountable for how well I was doing in any extracurricular activities or anything like that. No one ever really asked me or followed up or I was very self-managed, self-motivated. I raised myself, I fed myself, I clothed myself, I did everything myself. Now, the reason I say I didn't have any accountability when I was younger is because even though I had people who I was living with that were my caregivers, they would shame me or trick me or bully me and sort of be very vulgar toward me and telling me that I wasn't doing enough, even if I had done everything perfect. So that's not really accountability. Let's just be real. That's just bullying and abuse. So I was abused and bullied, but I was never held accountable in a healthy way. So accountability, in my own personal opinion, is something that denotes health. You are being held accountable for your actions. You are being held responsible. It's a matter of integrity. So it's not somebody bullying you or abusing you into doing something right or shaming you into doing something right. Okay, I hope you guys are getting the vibe there. So me, in the very beginning of my healing journey, I was being held accountable about what I was journaling about. And it really kickstarted my healing journey. And then some of the next things that I was being held accountable for were probably interactions with family members. It was brought to my attention that perhaps some of my blood relatives may not be the healthiest individuals, and I was being held accountable by my counselor regarding those familial relationships. I was not at a point in my mid-20s to even grasp the concept of severing ties or establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries, discerning what a safe person was. I was not on a personal development journey whatsoever that I knew of. I had zero clue as to how to do that. So the best thing I could really identify as accountability is, you know, my counselor asking me good questions and how things were going. So I want to shift this a little bit away from my recovery journey, just so now you have an example of what being held accountable in your recovery journey might look like, whether it's on journaling or DBT or CBT, or are you taking your prescribed medication? And of course, accountability is something you ask for. So you, by agreeing to go to a therapist or a counselor or a social worker, by signing their agreements, you're agreeing that they are going to be holding you accountable. They're not, and if they're doing it in a shaming way, then you need to find a new helping professional, period. You need to find a trauma-informed professional that will hold you accountable in your recovery journey and support you in your health, your overall well-being. So those are some ways that we can apply accountability to our recovery journey. But I want to flip it one more time, and I want to talk about a topic within this topic, and that is holding ourselves accountable. How does that work? Right? Athena, how am I supposed to hold myself accountable? I can barely make it through the day. I can barely make it out of bed. If I can even wake up and get out of bed and brush my teeth, then I'm good. Like, how am I supposed to hold myself accountable? It feels like I'm giving myself something else to do. What is this holding myself accountable thing for? Like, this just feels like more to do. This feels overwhelming, Athena. I don't think I can do this, etc. Then that's fine. this might not be the video for you. Go back and watch other videos. Find other YouTubers that agree with you personally and that you love hearing from them. And you can't wait till they put out another video. Find those people. Or if you like the videos on this channel, find some. And if you don't want to talk about accountability and it's too much for you right now, that's okay. There's no shame in that. Accountability is a little bit more perhaps advanced. Or if you want to take it just a little bit slower and you want to hold yourself accountable in certain areas, perhaps your big goal of the day is making sure that you wash your cup out from when you have a cup of coffee in the morning. And you really struggle with letting dishes pile up in the sink. So your number one goal, your first goal of many goals is, you know what, in the mornings, instead of letting my coffee cup sit in the sink and get that weird ring that never washes out and it just stains the cup, my goal is to wash my cup out in the mornings. I'm gonna hold myself accountable to that. Like, I'm gonna check that off of my list as done. And you know what? Really quick, this is a super like squirrel, but I gotta tell you guys about an awesome, awesome, awesome hashtag. And this will help you understand accountability in the most amazing way. So stop what you're doing. If you're on a replay, pause this video and go search the internet. Go search Instagram for the hashtag, or just search the internet if you're on a desktop computer. I know many of you don't have smartphones and I'm not shaming you, so please don't like blow up the comments about that. It's all good. So if you're on a smartphone, search Instagram for hashtag boring self-care. It's super awesome. And if you're on the internet, search for the hashtag boring self-care. And you will get the most incredible 30-day challenge. I think, was it put on by, was it The Mighty? It was either The Mighty or it was Psych Central or HuffPo. Maybe it was BuzzFeed. Maybe it was, I can't remember now, but hashtag boring self-care. So hashtag boring self-care is a great way to hold yourself accountable in your own recovery journey, especially if you're struggling with mental illness and whatever mental illness that might be, whether you're living with CPTSD symptoms, whether you're struggling with bipolar or depression, bipolar depression, or if you're living with borderline personality disorder, or you're struggling with DID, whatever it is that you are living with. If you are living with any type of mental illness, perhaps you have autoimmune disease, perhaps you're struggling and you have invisible illness, you're a spoonie, perhaps you're dealing with all kinds of different chronic pain. If that is you, if I have just called you out and you're like, she's speaking to me, then stop what you're doing, pause this video, and go search the internet for hashtag boring self-care. And there's a 30-day challenge where you can hold yourself accountable in just one boring small way to take good care of yourself, because as trauma survivors, we struggle to take care of ourselves. Anybody? Am I ringing anybody's bell? Is anybody like, that's me? Because is it just me? Am I the only one that struggles to take care of myself on a regular basis? It can't just be me. There's an entire hashtag out there called boring self-care, and it didn't get invented by me. So I know that it's not just me. So go out there. Search for hashtag boring self-care, take this 30-day challenge and look at all these cute little memes and these cute little it's easy stuff. It's like, and I don't say easy like duh. I don't mean it's easy like duh. I mean it's like simple easy. Like, oh, brush my teeth. Oh, wash my hair to the best of my ability. Take my prescribed medication. I slept 7 to 8 hours. I ate nourishing foods. I mean, these are boring things to the general population across the planet, but to us as trauma survivors, holding ourselves accountable in these small ways, it racks up. Check, 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 check. Check off all those boxes. It feels amazing to hold ourselves accountable in small ways. And a whole bunch of small ways adds up to big ways. And if we do, see the whole thing here, guys, the whole purpose for me recording this video is so you guys know that holding ourselves accountable or asking for accountability in certain areas, while it could be kind of scary, consistency is key. Consistency is key. Consistency is key. Being held accountable consistently over a long period of time. Find a way that works for you. Don't feel crappy about it. If you're feeling ashamed, it's the wrong version of accountability and you need to find somebody else. Okay? Find another way. Find another person or another way. Consistency is key when it comes to accountability. Consistency is key when it comes to accountability. Where's Kalisha? She's my girl. Put that up on the Survivor community Instagram. Consistency is key when it comes to accountability. You guys, being held accountable on a regular basis, consistently, little things over time. What is it? The journey of 1,000 steps begins with just one step? I mean, you guys, these little things add up. It's huge. It is one of the greatest things, the greatest gifts you will ever give yourself is either, if you know that you won't be able to hold yourself accountable because it's too triggering and stressful for you, ask a safe person, if they have time, would they please hold you accountable in the following areas? Even if it's just boring self-care. What if it's about washing your cup out after you have a cup of coffee? Now, I could pan my camera around and show you, but my sink does not have my coffee cup in it. I rinsed my coffee cup out this morning. I did, because it's Monday and it's easier for me to remember and do it right away. But on other days, I don't rinse my cup out right away. I put water in it and then I let it sit there and then it's like that goopy, weird water. So right now, my smoothie cup is in the sink and it's got stuff in it. Here, let me just, hold on. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. See my smoothie cup right there? Green smoothie cup. Yeah. I want to be held accountable and not have my green smoothie cup be in my sink at 3:43 in the afternoon. Because they pile up. The dishes pile up. So I want to hold myself accountable. I'm not asking you guys to hold me accountable, but I wanted to show you an example of something that's like real life, okay? Like real life. I struggle with dishes piling up in the sink. It's just something that I do. Dishes were part of my abuse as a child. I was forced to do everybody's dishes. And they would burn shit on the stove on purpose, just so it would take me longer to scrub the pans. You can't make this kind of stuff up, okay? They would burn stuff on purpose, so I would have to scrub the pans longer. All the soaking in the world sometimes does not get those stains out if someone burns something, especially if there's oil and they burn the oil. And then what if they like burn it and it gets, and then you accidentally scrub off the nonstick stuff, and then you get in trouble for ruining the nonstick pan because of course they used to cost a lot of money back in the 80s when it was like new to have Teflon. So yeah, you guys, I struggle with dishes. Dishes stress me out because dishes were part of my abuse. There are a few of you out there that have messaged me about some dishes. You guys know who you are. You guys know that dishes are a trigger for you and you struggle with a little small pile of dishes. And I'm not the only person. I know I'm not the only person. You guys are like, Athena, it's not just you. So you guys, that green smoothie cup in my sink right there, I need to wash my smoothie cup. And I don't want it in the sink. And my goal, I'm going to hold myself accountable to wash my smoothie cup in the morning tomorrow instead of letting it sit there for the afternoon. I hope those are enough examples ad nauseum for you to understand what I mean about accountability, healthy accountability, not shaming and not bullying and not abuse. So I'm going to turn it to you. Okay, it's your turn. What are your questions about accountability and how can I best support you? And please, this is a disclaimer. Disclaimer! My plate is full. I have accountability partners. Oh, by the way, accountability partners are a thing. They're a thing, okay? Having an accountability partner is kind of like having a buddy, like a buddy system buddy. And my plate's full. I already have accountability partners. I have an accountability partner and we ask each other about calories and food and, or if we're doing like a Weight Watchers thing, like points. or how we're doing with that. I also have accountability partners as it pertains to familial relationships and staying no contact with certain people, establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries. I am not in a place right now to hold any of you guys accountable for anything. Me showing up here every week, this is me. This is my act of love and accountability. So please refrain from emailing me asking me to hold you personally accountable to anything, because I will fail and I will gently but firmly turn you down, because I'm not in a position to be anybody's accountability partner. But I encourage you to go forth and prosper in finding your perfect accountability partner. And you guys already have that feeling inside right now. You're already picturing someone. You're like, yeah, I can picture myself. I can picture saying, hey, would you hold me accountable in this area? And then talking with them about what accountability is, and these are the ways in which I would like for you to hold me accountable. By the way, that's a thing. So if I want my husband to hold me accountable in something, for instance, I have an issue sometimes when I'm working on a project in the community. I have an issue with overworking. I become a little bit of a workaholic. I get very obsessive about work. And so when I ask my husband, honey, I think I need you to hold me accountable in the number of hours I'm working, because I will overwork. And what that means is and he knows by now, after 7 or 8 years of us being together, he's like, okay, how would you like me to hold you accountable? And so I say to him, I don't want to work more than 12 hours in a day. So if you see me go and sit at my computer at 7:30 in the morning, and you see that it's coming up on 7:30 at night, I need you 30 minutes before that to be like, hey, how's it going? Are you about ready to call it quits for the day? I think that's how I would like you to hold me accountable. How about that? So it's not him nagging me or shaming me or saying, are you done yet? It's been 12 hours. You said you were only going to work 12 hours. It's been 13 hours now. Really? That's not how I like to be held accountable. So if I say, honey, I think I need you to hold me accountable regarding how many hours I'm working on this particular project for our community, because I know myself. I'll get in it and I'll just be like, and I'll stay and I'll just not stop. And so he'll text me throughout the day and be like, how's your day going? Does it look like it's going to be a 12-hour day? Or just sweet ways that he knows that I'm receptive to. Okay? So you communicating clearly how you would like to be held accountable is your responsibility. Yours. If you're the one with a goal and you're reaching out to be held accountable, don't leave it open-ended. Don't be like, could you hold me accountable in this area? And then get upset when they hold you accountable in ways that are not the way you would like it. However, if that does happen, let me help you resolve that conflict. Shall I? I will role play this for you. So let's say my husband came in and he was like, it's been 14 hours. It's almost 9 o'clock tonight. Are you going to eat? So it would be my responsibility. I would say, thank you, I'll be right out. And then I would come out and I'd probably fix myself a bowl of cereal at 9:30 at night, because that's how I do sometimes. And I would say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And he'd be like, sure. And he knows when I say, can I talk to you for a minute? It means please don't face the opposite direction of me or look straight ahead. Please angle your body to face me, because that's what I like. And so he will face me and I will say, I really appreciate you holding me accountable on how many hours I've been working. I think I need to communicate a need to you. I think I need for you to maybe give me a little bit more notice or be a little bit more kind with your words. I think I felt like you were being a little bit shamey, and I can't really handle anything shamey right now. It just felt shamey, and I have enough shame. So instead of telling me the facts, which is how my husband communicates, facts, just the facts, ma'am. So instead of you saying it's been 13 or 14 hours, which is a true fact, instead of saying that, can I please communicate a need for you to say to me about 30 or 40 minutes early, hey, I know you asked me to hold you accountable regarding the hours you're working. I'm going to be making some delicious dinner. Would you like to join me? It'll be ready in 30 minutes. And I can be like, yes, thank you. So communicating your needs is huge. And if all of this feels very black belt and very advanced and like, I could never do that, Athena, you don't understand where I'm at. My relationship isn't the same as yours, and I'm not as far along in my recovery journey, and I could never, like, before you go there, just know that there are baby steps to everything. This is like kind of like watching one of those workout videos where like on the left-hand side of the screen is the person doing the high impact and the jumping around. And then there's like the person sitting in the chair on the right-hand side of the screen showing you how to do it if you are not an able-bodied person. So if what I just shared with you feels high impact and black belt, then we'll find a way amongst yourselves, communicate, support one another. That's what the comment section of these videos are for, that, and our communities are for that, and Twitter is for that, and being here and just being with others that are just like you, that have been through what you've been through. That's what this is for. So find a low impact or maybe green belt, orange belt version of what I just shared with you if it felt black belt-ish and like high impact. Because sometimes I can be a little bit much, you know, like annoyingly chipper is one of the ones I get called a lot, or, you know, all that. Or like I'm just too much. I'm just high energy. I'm just too intense and I need to mellow out, and I bug people. If that's the case, first of all, you're on the wrong YouTube channel. Go find a different channel. But if you love me, but that just felt a little advanced and black belt and sort of high impact, then you know what? Just work it around. Write down a goal that you have and like some possible ways that you would like to reach that goal, and then ask someone specifically, hey, could you hold me accountable in this particular area? And this is how I would love to be held accountable. Let's say your goal, let's do the goal, and then we'll reverse engineer it, and then we'll talk about accountability possibilities. Okay, so let's say I am Joe. I'm making up a name. Like my name is Joe, and my goal is to maybe show up more regularly to the Monday night chats, because I realized that when I do show up, I seem to have a better week. So let's reverse engineer that. So if my goal is to show up and be more like, maybe participate more or show up more often to the Monday night chats, how can I set myself up for success? So one way is to set a reminder, let's say like in your phone, or if you're old school, like a BlackBerry, or on your Outlook calendar, or if you have like a paper calendar or a day planner, like set yourself up for success by reminding yourself like a day or two before, right? Or another way to set yourself up for success, if you're Joe and you want to show up on Monday nights, is to maybe bookmark the YouTube channel and the live events section. I believe it's trauma recovery. I think it's youtube.com/trauma recovery university TV /live_events/. I think that's like the URL, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, a second way to set yourself up for success is to put that in your phone calendar or computer calendar, where you just, it's clickable. You touch it and you're like, boom, there it is, like every Monday, right? That's a second way to set yourself up for success. Or let's say you want to be held accountable. You would like a couple of our community members to maybe reach out to you on like Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays and be like, hey, how's it going? I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Not sure what the topic is yet, but it would be great to see you, just to like hang out and just, you know, chat, and you know, maybe we can all have a better week. So those are just some ways to reverse engineer your goal and to ask somebody for accountability in a specific area. And you know, many of you are familiar with SMART goals, something that is specific and measurable. And A is, I forget what A is. R is reachable, and T is time sensitive. Yeah, I can't remember. I used to teach people, like I used to teach classes on SMART goals, and I just can't remember it right now. It's like a whole nother life. In a past life, that's what I did, but I just can't remember. So it's good for your goals to be specific and measurable, and then if you have a very specific goal, then you can ask somebody for accountability in an area of that particular goal. So I hope that was helpful. I am going to turn it over to you guys now, and I think I've given you enough examples to run with, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pop this up, and read some of your questions. And I just want to say welcome to anybody. If it's your first time here, we're so excited you're here. And if you're watching a replay, or even if you're here live, would you give this video a thumbs up, please, if this has been helpful to you at all? And if you don't want to miss out on when I go live or any of the broadcasts or anything, hit the little bell it's on your phone. If you just touch the little bell, or if you're on a tablet, you could touch the little bell, or if you're on a laptop, you could click on the little bell on YouTube when you subscribe to our channel. Then you'll get a reminder in your email, and they never spam you. It's YouTube. They're very safe about that kind of stuff. But give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if it's helpful for you, and I just can't wait to answer your questions now. So let's see. Okay. I am gonna see if I can start at the very beginning here. By the way, you guys, huge shout out to Matt and Dawn for moderating. They're so amazing. Dudes, yes you do. Okay, so Amanda says, I would say that having someone that I was accountable to check in with every day in the beginning of my recovery was instrumental in my healing. That person was my strength to get through each day until I was strong enough on my own. Oh, that's so awesome, Amanda. High fives to you. It takes, you know what, it takes a lot of courage for us to, like reach out and get accountability in any area. It's like, it's just, it can be really, it can be scary because you don't want to shame yourself for failing if you don't reach a goal, and it just has to be, what's the word that Lori Gill uses? Titrated. It has to be titrated. It has to be balanced, you know, positive reinforcement. I tell my husband that his positive words of affirmation help me stay on task and help me reach my goals in a healthy way. So if he notices that, for instance, I'm eating more vegetables and I'm like having more smoothies, or I'm cooking more and I'm not, you know, eating things that I don't want to eat, like, you know, he'll say, wow, I noticed you're eating really good. I just want to give you high fives, or like, I'm so proud of you, or something, you know what I mean? Or like with one of my accountability partners, like, he's really, really, really good about words of affirmation, and he'll be like, high fives, and like, good job doing that, and you rocked it, and you're just amazing, and I'm proud of you, or whatever. And then I have a girlfriend that will, you know, ask me how I'm doing with certain stuff, and she'll just say, I love you, you're such an inspiration, I'm so proud of you. And I can, exactly what Amanda said here, I can honestly say that, you know, leaning on other people in certain areas of our recovery journey, it really does get us through. It just gets us through, you guys. Sometimes getting through recovery is so hard. I mean, some days it's just a struggle, like depending on where you're at and like what triggers you've had, or like where you're at in your life, or what extenuating circumstances are going on, or if you have travel, or if you have situations with family, or a death in the family, or if you're not feeling physically well, or if there's a job situation, or a financial situation, or a health situation. It's just so hard. So having someone who's able to hold you accountable, it just can make the hugest difference. So I just can't emphasize enough what Amanda said. She says it perfectly. She says that that person was her strength to get through each day until she was strong enough to do it on her own. So I can definitely relate to that. And that was definitely the case for me as well. Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, I have found one of the biggest hurdles in my recovery is letting go of the idea that my abusers will be held accountable for what they did. Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys. Abusers are famous for blaming, and they rarely take responsibility for their actions. Why? Because being held accountable and taking responsibility for your actions is a matter of integrity. That's what Google said. And when was the last time you would use the word integrity while describing one of your abusers? Like never. I'm just speaking for me. So yeah, it's hard. It's so hard to let go. It's so hard to let go of the idea that they will ever be held accountable for what they did. Because you know what? I mean, ultimately, you guys know I'm a woman of faith. I'm not shoving my beliefs down anybody's throat, but I'm just saying, like, I truly believe that God sees it all, and that someday someday they will all be held accountable for what they did and what they didn't do. And that's a big one. Being held accountable for what we do and what we don't do, like, that's a big deal, you guys. Think about it. Seriously, food for thought, right? Joey says, I've got to realize that my abusers will not be held accountable for their actions because I was not being accountable for myself when things got out of hand. Now, I want to pull this apart a little bit. Joey, Joey and anyone listening that relates to this sentence that says, my abusers will not be held accountable for their actions because I was not being accountable for myself when things got out of hand. Children are not accountable to themselves. Children are not responsible for the actions of adults. So Joey, if I say this gently and firmly, if you're referring to any type of childhood abuse, then that's a shaming sentence, and that's the voice of someone else, and it's not a wise voice to be listening to. Because the two sentences, if they are broken up without the word because in them, are true sentences. And the only thing I would add is that children are not to be held accountable for themselves. Adults are held responsible for children until children are old enough to be responsible for themselves. We were entrusted into the hands of others who sometimes, many of them, did not take their responsibility seriously, and they didn't take good care of the children that were entrusted to them. So the shame is on them, not on us. So while it's a true statement, Joey, for you to say you've got to realize that your abusers will not be held accountable for their actions, that's a true statement. That's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the truth. And then the second part of your sentence, I'm taking out the word because it's shaming in the context of this sentence. It says, I was not being accountable for myself when things got out of hand. If you were an adult and you weren't being accountable, way to own your junk. Like, go you. High fives for holding yourself accountable. Like, that's awesome. That's personal growth right there. And it's hard. Personal growth is hard. Growth is never easy. That's why it's called growing pains. But if you were a child, it's not your job to be held accountable for yourself when things get out of hand. And things didn't just get out of hand if it was a child being abused. They didn't just accidentally get out of hand. Oops. Oh my goodness. I had a pot on the stove and a towel caught fire and it just got out of hand. It was an accident. No, like, you were abusing a child, and that's not okay. It didn't just accidentally happen. You chose to abuse a child, and you're wrong, and you're an abuser. So things didn't just get out of hand. You were abused. And if you were a child during your abuse, it wasn't your responsibility, and the shame doesn't belong to you. You deserve to heal, Joey, and healing is possible. Is it a long journey? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it. But I'm telling you right now that the way your sentence is worded, that they're not going to be held accountable for their actions because you were not accountable to yourself, that's not true. That's a lie. Lie. You're awesome, and you're doing good things, and you're healing, and I'm proud of you. So I'm moving on now. And Austin says, society seems to want to have an answer for everything, including making excuses for violence and pure evil, instead of holding people accountable for their choices. I would agree with that, Anne. And it's just sickening, honestly. Like, I mean, just some of the excuses that people come up with, it's just like, it's so sad and disgusting, and it's ridiculous. So yes, I agree with you, Anne. And society makes excuses for everything. Bottom line, we're all accountable for our own actions if we're adults, period. Now, do some of us have extenuating circumstances, and we had things perpetrated upon us when we were children, and we're still living with the consequences of those things that were perpetrated upon us, and so we're responsible for much, 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 much more now that we're adults? Yeah. Does that suck? Yeah. But can we heal, and can we make a difference, and can we do the right thing? Yeah, we can. We can. And I want to be held accountable, and I want to heal as much as I can possibly heal and help other people heal. So I know that we all are here for the same reason. So I agree with you, Anne. Willow says, I struggle more so with the betrayal and the lack of accountability of the enablers. I can label abusers as abusers, but enablers are confusing and overwhelming. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, I gotta look at you guys. So one of the most devastating parts of our abuse, you guys, isn't necessarily admitting that the abuse was abuse, because if we sit with it long enough, we come to the conclusion that certain treatment was wrong. And we're like, yeah, that was wrong. It takes some time because it hurts to think about, but we come to that conclusion. We're like, you know what? That was really wrong. They were wrong to do those things to me. Then when we begin to process the fact that it was impossible for people to not know, and they chose to look the other way, or they chose to stay silent, or they even blamed the victim because it helped them keep their status in the family or remain in good light with the abuser, remain in, you know, favorable light. Like, that's pathetic, and that is devastating. It is sickening and devastating, and grieving and accepting the reality of that. A lot of people lose their lives over that. A lot of people don't survive that. A lot of people end up dying an early death, either through autoimmune disease or stress or ulcers, or heaven forbid they take their own lives, because processing the reality, accepting the reality that they weren't worth protecting, they weren't worth saving. One of the most devastating things that I've ever had to process and grasp in my entire life. I'm alive. Is it easy? Does it ever get easier? Probably not. I mean, it's just as painful if I think about it now. I mean, the difference is it doesn't rock me to my core like it used to. It used to rock me to my core to where I couldn't even function. Now not so much. It's still just as devastating, but it doesn't rock me to my core the way it used to. You know, but the betrayal and the lack of accountability of the enablers is, I would say, one of the hugest hurdles that I've ever had to jump over in my entire recovery journey. So I want to validate anybody out there who's feeling that way. If you are struggling to grasp the reality and accept the fact that you have multiple people that were present on a day in and day out basis to where you know they must have known, and here you are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, and you're just like, who would look the other way? Who would stay silent? Who would blame a child? Who could be so apathetic and ambivalent and ignorant and just selfish? Like, if that's you, I want to validate you, and you are not alone. So, Willow, yes. Yes, so much yes. So much yes. Oh my goodness. Aurora says, I'm feeling very angry that my parents don't hold one of my abusers accountable, and they didn't try to be supportive. Aurora, I would be so angry too. I would feel very angry also. In fact, I had family members that they knew what I was going through. They did nothing. They did nothing about it. And I do feel very angry about that. I'm choosing to release it because sometimes it makes me sick, like physically ill. But I'm with you. Your feelings of being very angry are valid, very valid. Poppy says, any suggestions if you find yourself holding yourself accountable too much, like taking accountability for stuff and junk that is not yours, and how to break that pattern. Ooh, there is a song that we sing as trauma survivors, adult survivors of any type of child abuse. We are the responsibility takers. We take responsibility for everyone and everything. That's our song. That's our anthem. And I'm working with a client with this particular thing right now. And I do have a method on how to break that pattern that's helping one of my clients hugely. And it's every day, all day, as many times as it comes up. So they were having trouble taking responsibility for and sort of owning and blaming themselves every single time their roommate left a mess or was doing something loud or being passive aggressive or just making a mess or just huffing and puffing. They actually were like taking it on themselves, like, I must have done something wrong. I must have done something wrong. I feel sick to my stomach because if I didn't do something, then why would they be huffing and puffing and making noise and slamming cupboards and pouncing around and playing this particular show really, really loud, like they're trying to get my attention, and then I must have done something wrong. And so what I had to share with them was all day, every day, they wrote themselves Post-it notes on certain colored Post-it notes, whatever color it was that inspired them and that would cause them to just stop and think. And they wrote it on their hand, actually, with Sharpie marker. They put it in their car. They put it on their bathroom cabinet, like on a piece of paper, like taped up there on the inside of their bathroom cabinet because this Post-it note wouldn't stay there. And what they wrote on the Post-it note was different. It's different for everybody, but I think what she ended up writing was, what exactly did she write? She wrote, their stuff is not my stuff. I did not cause that. I am not the reason. I am not the cause. That is not my stuff. Their stuff is their stuff. My stuff is my stuff. And then I had her pause several times throughout the day with reminders on her little Fitbit thingy. She had a little Fitbit, and she could tell it when to buzz. And every single time it buzzed, she had to stop what she was doing and ask herself, am I holding on to anything that is not mine? Am I holding on to anything that is not mine? And that was an excellent way. She asked me to hold her accountable, and that was an excellent way for her to hold herself accountable. It wasn't shaming, but it was consistent. Consistency is key when it comes to accountability. Consistency is key when it comes to accountability. Consistency is key when it comes to accountability. So consistently, ask yourself, am I holding on to anything that is not mine? Am I taking responsibility for anything that's not my junk? It's not my stuff? Hold yourself accountable, for sure. It's a really, really, really good question. Violet says, I would like to soon try and confront my parents regarding accountability. I think this may be necessary to move forward, as I think that the accountability should be shared. Violet, I don't know enough about your story to know if this is a good step to take or not. I would love to tell you that that sounds like an excellent step to take. Good for you. You're going to hold them accountable. But I will just lay this across. The whole thing is like a blanket. Here you go. This is a blanket laid across your guys' whole life. Abusers will never take responsibility. When I choose to hold an abuser accountable for something and wait for them to respond and say, yes, I will be held accountable for that. Yes, I did that wrong. I see what you're saying now. You're right. I acted inappropriately. I was abusive. If that is ever our mindset, that is delusional, and you are setting yourself up to be re-traumatized. That is a recipe for re-traumatization. So, Violet, I will coach you as though you were my client, and I will tell you, if your parents are safe people and they are healthy, boundaried individuals, then this is a great approach. I agree that accountability should be shared, but If your parents are not safe people, that are not healthy boundaried individuals, that are willing to take responsibility for their actions, you are setting yourself up to be re-traumatized, and I would caution any of you against that. That is not something I would recommend. Just my 2 cents. And I'm hoping you were asking for me to answer that question, because this is Q&A. I hope I'm not giving unsolicited advice. So Paul says, my family used my accountability in a way that shamed me and put me down. Yes, it is so common. Shame-based parenting is something that was very, 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 very common, especially in the 70s and 80s. Oh my goodness, you guys. 60s, 70s, and 80s. So much of the parenting was shame-based parenting. And it's so sad, and it's just heartbreaking. And I'm sorry you lived through that, Paul. You did not deserve that. And I'm hoping that you can find some healthier ways to hold yourself accountable and things and like reach your goals, you know? Let me just take a sip of water, you guys. Okay. Moving right along after my water break, Joey says, what if the person you have to help you be accountable turns into a negative person and then you have trust issues? Well, that's a great question, Joey. You guys, we have to be careful about who we ask to hold us accountable. We need to make sure that they're a safe person. And if they are not a safe person, we are not going to be asking them to hold us accountable. We're only allowed to ask safe people to hold us accountable. Otherwise, we need to hold ourselves accountable, because we should not be asking people that are not safe people. And I know that's hard to come by. A lot of us survivors don't have very many safe people in our lives, but you know, we might be the only safe person that we know, and we need to ask ourselves to hold ourselves accountable, or move on to a different video if this topic does not gel with you. Take the best and leave the rest, as they say. So hope that's helpful. August says, I feel that accountability makes me responsible for my reactions to triggers. Ooh, that is such an excellent point, August. I'm so happy one of you guys brought this up. August, thank you. I don't know if August is still around. I know this was like a half an hour ago or longer that she posted this, so hopefully she's still here. But you guys, while we are responsible to our reactions to our triggers, we are not responsible for the fact that we're being triggered to begin with. We didn't sign up to be traumatized and abused so we could live with PTSD. So while we are responsible for the way we respond to our triggers, and it's our responsibility to find healthy coping strategies for our triggers, we're not responsible and we're not to blame for the fact that we were traumatized to begin with and that we are living with trauma at all. Like, that's not our responsibility. So I hope that's helpful. That's an excellent point though, August. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Poppy says, I tend to be really good at holding myself accountable with the negative, but I'm hesitant to accept accountability for positive progress. Anybody else? Me. So a lot of survivors, a lot of trauma survivors are very, very, very hard on themselves, and they hold themselves to unrealistic standards. So Poppy, my challenge to you is to ask yourself as often as possible, am I holding myself to an unrealistic standard? And perhaps at the end of your day, every day, before you close your eyes and go to sleep at night, try to acknowledge yourself. Just one thing. Work up to 3 if you can, but one thing starting off. What was one thing that I did positively today? Something that I did that was positive. And work your way up to 3 if you can, because we all tend, survivors, I don't want to say all because I'm lumping. It's not the blanket, right? That's not the blanket that you guys need. The blanket, the blanket is we don't ever want to expect that abusers will ever take accountability or responsibility for their actions. Otherwise, we're setting ourselves up to be re-traumatized. That's the blanket. But this, most survivors have trouble accepting accolades or giving themselves an attaboy or a kudos or a pat on the back or a high five for a job well done. But if we would each do very well. This should be part of like hashtag boring self-care. I wonder if it is. I wonder if I just didn't get there. But and you guys need to be searching hashtag boring self-care because it's a thing and it's amazing. But let's find one thing and work our way up to 3 of something that we did that was positive or good in the day. So that's my challenge to you, Poppy. This is your mission should you choose to accept it. Let me know if you accept that mission. Angela Lawrence, hi Angela. She says, is there any way to help someone who is so depressed that they no longer care to have accountability? No, there's not. You guys, if you really want to help somebody be held accountable to something, then, and you know that they're not in a place where they can receive it, there's a chance that you could be leaning in and falling into a codependent relationship. I caution you to look inward regarding this accountability topic and not outward. I'm going to say that again because someone needs to hear it twice. I caution each of you and I encourage you to look inward as it pertains to this accountability topic and not outward. Because if we are trying to help others hold themselves accountable or do something and they're not ready, we are setting ourselves up for a codependent situation and disappointment. And honestly, it's very draining and exhausting and we're going to burn out. So a good example of this, Angela Lawrence, I hope you're still here. A good example of this is I saw that my husband was not setting goals. He was just sort of meandering through his day in and day out life. And he had all these dreams of wanting to do like this or that or whatever. He's a very content person, but he didn't really have goals, like dreams and goals. Like he didn't really care for what he was doing for a while. Like, you know, at his job, he was just like, it's just not something that I'm really passionate about. He lacked passion. That's what it is. And I could tell that he wanted to feel more passionate, but he didn't set any goals for himself. So I put a reminder in his phone every Saturday when I knew he would be in a good frame of mind that he could write down a goal, because we have an exponentially higher rate of success if we write down our goals. Did you know that? You are something like 60% more likely to reach your goal if you actually write it down. And so I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll encourage my husband. I'll hold him accountable. I'll walk his walk and mine. I'll live his life and mine. I know I'm only supposed to live my life, but I'll live my life and his life. I'll walk my walk and his. That's what I'll do. I'll be held responsible for my stuff and his stuff, right? Codependent much. So I went into his phone and I set him a reminder on his calendar to go off every Saturday when he was in a good frame of mind so that he could write down a goal. Do you think he ever wrote down one goal? Ever. One goal. One. Ever one goal. No. No. Why? Because Angela Lawrence so perfectly pointed out that we can never desire to help someone and hold someone accountable more than they desire it themselves. They have to ask us to hold them accountable. They have to want it. They have to want to be well before we can help them be well. So great question, Angela. Oh my goodness. Hey, Jess. I'm so excited to see you. Consistency is the hardest part of self-care. I agree, Jess. How do I hold myself accountable for that? I'm so happy you asked, Jess, because you should go to hashtag boring self-care. It's not me. It's not mine. It's not my invention, but it's one of my favorite things on the whole internet right now. It helped me and it made me smile and it made me giggle. And go to Instagram. Go to Instagram, you guys. Even if you go on your computer, if you don't have a smartphone and you type in Instagram.com and you hit the little hourglass or magnifying glass and you type in hashtag boring self-care, you will be tickled pink. You will be so happy. You can't help but smile. And it's just so awesome. So I hope that helps you, Jess, because it really helped me a lot. And I actually racked up a whole bunch of little check marks and I was like, hey, I'm doing pretty good today. Not today, but like, you know, previously. Mondays are hard. Mondays are really full. But I hope that helps, Jess. John Harvey says, what if you got no one to hold you accountable? Ooh, That is tough. I've been in that situation, John Harvey. I remember being the only healthy person in my life, other than my son, who was off in the military and unable to communicate with me except for snail mail. And I was very early on in my dating relationship with my husband, and I sort of kept to myself, and I was just sort of like grieving the fact that my son had left to go in the military. He was 17 years old, and he was off in the Marine Corps like an adult, and I was just like, oh, what do I do? You know? In my 30s, just trying to figure life out, and I had no one. I had no one to hold me accountable for anything. I had no one. Like, the person that had been with me every day of my life for 17 years was now gone. So I just, after I slipped into a bit of a depression, and then I came out of it through over-exercising and withholding calories and having eating disorder behaviors, hashtag not a good choice, I then just wrote down a goal, like, you know, get enough sleep, or read my Bible every day, read one verse in the Bible every day, brush my teeth. Like, I made the most menial, like, basic list of basic life functions, and I wrote them down, and I printed them out on a copy machine, like Office Max, and I just I had it like up on the thing, like one a day, and that's what I did. I just had to hold myself accountable. So it's the hard way to do it, John Harvey, but it works. I'm telling you, it works. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope that you don't feel like I minimize your situation, because I've been there and I lived it, and it was hard. And it's really hard. Kalisha says, Athena, I understand about the dishes and the pots and the burned pots. Oh, I'm sorry that you understand what I'm talking about, Kalisha, because it was seriously, I mean, it was one of the most traumatizing times of my life. Seriously, I was just looking around like, does anybody not see how effed up this is? Like, I was like 8 years old. I mean, who does that to an 8-year-old, right? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry you understand, Kalisha. Oh my goodness. I hope it helps that I know a little bit of like how you feel or whatever. I don't know if that helps at all, but I do understand, I think, a little bit of how you feel in that situation. So Violet says, how do you know when we are being too accountable, like perfectionism? Ooh, this is a great question. Perfect question, Violet. Okay, so the moment you know you're being too accountable or perfectionistic, like you're holding yourself to unattainable standards, if you start to feel shitty, like you're shaming yourself, like you feel ashamed because you didn't reach your goal. Many of us were raised in shame-based environments, and we set lofty goals for ourselves as a means of self-sabotage because we are so used to being sabotaged and shamed. I'm going to say that again because someone's going to have a light bulb moment right about now. Many of us as adults set lofty goals for ourselves and end up shaming ourselves for not reaching them because we were raised in an environment that was shame-based, and we are so used to being set up to fail that we perpetuate this cycle. We perpetuate this cycle. It's familiar. It's familiar. It's familiar. Have a goal, don't reach the goal, get shamed, get in trouble. Have a goal, don't reach the goal, get shamed, get in trouble. Have a goal, don't reach the goal, get shamed, feel crappy. Have a goal, don't reach the goal, feel ashamed, feel crappy, again and again and again. The way it looked when you were a child was, here's your goal, you didn't do the goal good enough, I'm gonna shame you, now do you feel crappy? Here's another goal. Oh, you didn't do it as good, like, no, the rules have changed now. Let me rip the rug out from underneath you. Let me change the rules midstream so that you're set up to fail completely. Oh, you didn't reach that goal. I'm ashamed of you. You should feel ashamed of yourself. Now do you feel crappy? Let's do it again. Here's a goal. Nope, let me change all the rules for you. Let me set you up to fail. I'm going to shame you now and you're going to feel crappy. Let's do it again. And so when you're an adult, you repeat the pattern. Why? Because it's familiar. It's the beast you know, as Bobby would say. I did it. I did it. And that's where eating disorder behaviors really come into play for me when I do this. I want to lose 50 pounds because I'm 50 pounds heavier now than I was on such and such a date. And I know that I'll feel my best self if I lose 50 pounds. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose 50 pounds at all costs. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Do I lose 50 pounds? I do everything I possibly can in a healthy way by not having eating disorder behaviors, by not restricting calories, by not over exercising, by not shaming myself and not weighing myself every single day, and ad nauseum, like, you know, however many things to the list. And then when I don't reach that goal, I shame myself. I feel crappy. I overeat to self-medicate because it feels good. And then I feel shittier because I'm heavier. And so then I start over. So that is where that cycle begins. I didn't invent that cycle. It was invented for me by my family. I simply adopted it as my own. So once I decide that's not mine, I'm not going to do it anymore. No. Set myself some realistic goals. So to answer your question directly, Violet, without all of my analogies and setting up of light bulb moments, which I know some of you had some light bulb moments. I'm going to be getting some emails right now. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, I get the little light bulb emoji like in the subject line of the email. And Athena, at such and such time of 1 hour and 36 minutes of such and such a week, and I had a light bulb moment, you know, and it's just so cool, you guys. Your messages keep me going. They're amazing. So please keep them coming. But the long story short, to Violet's question of how do you know when you're being too accountable or being perfectionistic, that I don't want to ever cross the two. Don't get it twisted. You can never be held too accountable. Being held accountable is a healthy thing, and perfectionism is a not healthy thing. It's unhealthy. Being held accountable is healthy. Perfectionism is unhealthy. So hopefully we can differentiate between the two. And I hope you can feel and know intuitively in yourself. If you begin to feel ashamed, then you're being perfectionistic. And then we should reassess those goals, make them a little bit more attainable. That's what the A is in SMART. SMART goal: specific, measurable, attainable, time-based, now I mixed it up. Anyway, moving on. I don't want to go on another rabbit trail because I do that a lot. You guys get like all confused, and I get hate mail. So excellent question, Violet. Hey, Julie. Julie says, I am accountable with myself by knowing my limits. I only write a single chapter per day in my book unless I get upset in the middle. Good for you. Now, see, that's a healthy boundary to have with ourselves. And that's an excellent way to hold ourselves accountable. Write one chapter a day in your book unless you're feeling upset or triggered, and then give yourself permission to let it go for that day. Start again the next day. What is it in Lamentations? His mercies are new every morning. Like, we wake up with a fresh batch of mercy every single morning. If you're a man or a woman of faith, you know what I'm talking about. You just live for that. You're like, I need a fresh batch of mercy today because I blew it. I blow it every day. So I need fresh mercy every single day. But yeah, every morning, wake up. And if yesterday you didn't reach your goal, then wipe that slate clean and give yourself a new slate every morning. And hold yourself accountable to only today's goal, not yesterday's goal, yesteryear, last decade, your childhood, everybody else, someone else, your husband, your friends, everything. Oh, yes. Dawn just let me know that that's Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23. Thank you, Dawn. You're awesome. High fives. But yeah, let's wake up every day and give ourselves a clean slate because we deserve that. We've been through hell. And so let's give ourselves a clean slate every single day, right? Let's not hold ourselves accountable for yesterday's goals. Let's just hold ourselves accountable for today's goals. And let's not shame ourselves for not reaching yesterday's, yesteryears, and childhood goals because, you know, sometimes we're not. So I hope that's helpful. Julie, that is an excellent example of holding yourself accountable to something while not shaming yourself. High fives to you. Kalisha says, I tend to overwork myself to the point that I burn out. I do the same thing sometimes. I don't even realize I'm doing it though, because I'm so passionate. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to do it. I want to finish it. I want to do it. I want to finish it. And I get so excited, but I don't realize that I need balance. That's why I asked my husband, to hold myself accountable to the number of hours I work. It's to keep me from burning out, because I'm in this for the long haul. Like legacy, like in the future, years, decades. Like that's how long I want to do what I'm doing. I love my life. I love this community. I love the work I do. But if I work 14 hours a day, too many days in a row, I'm going to burn out and I'm going to be like, not be able to be here, you know? So I do the same thing, Kalisha. Last one, guys. Violet White says, what if accountability causes triggers of parent-wanted perfectionism? Perfect question to end on. You guys, accountability and perfectionism, they can feel very similar. They can feel very, 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 very similar. And we can know for certain that if we're cruising along, holding ourselves accountable, and we know when we cross the line into perfectionism and we feel triggered because our parents set us up to fail. They were perfectionistic. They set us up to fail with unrealistic expectations that we would never be able to meet because there's no such thing as perfect. So the way we know we cross that line is if we're triggered into a shamey sort of a feel. Get to know yourself. What are your shame triggers? What do you do when you feel ashamed? Because you guys, newsflash, shame is painful. Shame is painful. And what do we do as humans when shame comes and it's painful? We numb, stuff, and avoid. Why do we numb, stuff, and avoid? Why do we numb pain? Why do we stuff pain? And why do we avoid pain? Because it hurts, and it hurts bad, and it's like unbearable sometimes. So figure out what your coping strategies are when what are some of your shame triggers? Like, what do you do to cope with the pain of shame? Do you overeat? Do you overexercise? Do you drink alcohol? Do you do vaping? Do you do vaping? Do you drink to numb? Do you stomp down the feelings because you don't want to express them because no one needs to know how you're feeling? Do you avoid completely and just busy yourself to where your schedule is so full that you don't ever have to sit with how you're feeling? Like, what are the ways that you numb, stuff, and avoid the pain of shame? Get to know your shame triggers, okay? If you're doing too much work and you're setting yourself up and then you end up burning out, and so when you burn out, you feel this certain way and you feel that certain way, and so you end up using your unhealthy coping strategy, right? You'll know when you cross the line from accountability into perfectionism if you get a shame trigger and you see yourself practicing behaviors that are maladaptive coping strategies. They're unhealthy survival mechanisms, unhealthy strategies that you're using to cope. And unhealthy is only in you're the only one who can choose if something is unhealthy, right? You need to be able to look at that and say, this is unhealthy. And it's good to have like a second set of eyes. Like, is this unhealthy in your opinion? I'm not, and the reason I say that you're the only one, and I'm wrapping this video up right now because I don't want to go over time. The reason I'm saying you're the only one is because you don't want to get into that place where you're depending on someone else to tell you if something's right or wrong. Like, we need to have that interior locus of control. We need to have self-control. We need to be able to monitor how it is that we're doing and hold ourselves accountable. And if someone else is shaming you for doing something that you don't think is wrong, then that's not the right person to ask. But if you're doing something and you feel yourself, you have a shame trigger, right? You're crossing the line into perfectionism and you're sort of using unhealthy coping strategies to deal with the stress or to deal with the pain or to deal with fill in the blank, then, you know, ask yourself, how could I deal with this in a little bit more of a healthy way? How can I deal with this in a little bit more of a healthy way? Am I taking on too much? If I'm taking on too much, how can I not take on too much? Because when I take on too much, I do these things, and I don't want to do these things. Or I want to hold myself accountable to this goal, and this goal. But when you cross the line into perfectionism, then you end up using unhealthy coping strategies to reach those goals. And then you're going to end up shaming yourself, okay? So only you are going to know what those are. There are some right off the bat that are going to always be unhealthy coping strategies, and I'm just going to lay those out right now, okay? Self-harming, that you need to speak with someone if you're self-harming as a means of coping, because if you accidentally self-harm too much and you take your own life, is that something that you wanted to do? If you have suicidal ideation, you need to reach out and get crisis help, professional support, okay? Alcoholism, drug addiction, eating disorders, those things that destroy you as a person, they destroy your psyche and they destroy your body. Those are unhealthy coping strategies, and you need to reach out and get professional help, more so than just watching a video. You deserve the best possible care, trauma-informed care. That's the key, you guys. You need to reach out and get trauma-informed care, because someone who's trauma-informed is going to look at your original trauma, and they're going to keep it in mind, and they're going to look at your current maladaptive coping strategies, your unhealthy coping strategies, your unhealthy mechanisms, the addictions, the compulsive shopping, compulsive gambling, illicit sex, addiction, self-harm, those types of things that you're using to cope with pain. And they're going to look at your original trauma, and they're going to look at your coping strategies that you're using that you wish to get rid of. They're going to always take both of those into consideration, and then they're going to help you map out a healthy plan for your life. And you need to ask them to hold you accountable to that, wrapping it right around on topic and putting a bow on that. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. This has been one of my most favorite videos that I've ever made. I always say that, but like, I really need it. This has just been amazing, and I love your interaction. I love all your questions. I love your great examples. And if it's not too much to ask, over on Twitter, twitter.com/Athena Moberg, my pinned tweet, the tweet at the top, is a brief survey that takes less than 10 seconds. All it is a question. It says, many of you have contacted me personally asking me for daily support. Daily, not just weekly on Mondays here, but daily support. If I were to move forward making daily resources for you guys, you just have two choices. Pick one. Either CPTSD resources or childhood sexual abuse resources. Don't tell me, don't put it in the comments here. Go to Twitter between now and like 5 days from now, because that's when the survey ends, and just click one. And you can change your answer, and it's completely anonymous. But if it's not too much to ask, it would really mean a lot to me if I could hear you guys speak to me and give me your voice and tell me, what is it? Even if you don't have a Twitter profile, make one. Just make one that's anonymous. Your username could be QSTLV1974-8000, and then find twitter.com/Athena Moberg, and then click on one of the two. I want daily support for CPTSD and complex trauma healing, or I want daily support for childhood sexual abuse. Just pick one, okay? And it would mean the world to me if you did that, because I need to know. I'm not going to just go create something that I don't know if you guys want or not. I need to know what you guys want before I create it. And this is just the love of my life, being here with you guys. And it means a lot to me. So I'm going to end with this, this scripture that I mentioned earlier, because Dawn was so kind as to find it for me. So I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to let you guys go. I've already lost about half of you. Goodness, I know, because I ran over. Sorry. Okay, so Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23 says, "It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed. His compassions, they fail not. They are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness." So I'm just thinking of each of you. I'm praying for you guys. I just love each of you, and I'm so happy to be here. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel. If you can, go over to Twitter, twitter.com/Athena Moberg, and just click on one. Just click on one. And that way I know what resources to create for you guys. And get the word out and share the tweet, retweet it, share it. Vote as many times as many Twitter profiles as you have. It would mean a lot to me. And I will see you guys next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here for live Q&A. And I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. And I look forward to your comments in the comment section of this video regarding accountability and what you do to be held accountable, and what are some of your favorite ways to be held accountable. Are there apps that you like that hold you accountable, like the Pomodoro app? Is there a scheduling app? Is there an app that you love? Is there a person that you love to reach out to? Are there certain ways you like to be held accountable? What are some of your tips, tricks, and strategies regarding being held accountable in any area of your life? as a matter of integrity. So my name's Athena Moberg. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thumbs up, subscribe, go to Twitter, vote. Thanks, guys.